Well, hi there, Michael here from Leaderscape once again. And how are you doing in this whole crazy but amazing world in which we're living right now? We're delighting in having the privilege of partnering with a stack of churches around the place. You know, one moment I could be talking to a church of several thousand, the next a pastor who's got 70 people. Obviously, they have unique challenges in this regard, and it's such an honour to be able to come alongside God's generals at this time. I'm really honoured today to be with another Aussie, Mike Frost, and Mike is I reckon he's one of the most practical theologians that I know. He's got a very, very sharp mind, not adverse to having a stoush for the sake of the kingdom, but also a really huge heart, loves people, loves the kingdom, loves the potential in seeing people released in a missional way. Mike, thanks for joining me today, mate. Great to have you here.
Thanks, mate. And here we are, both in Sydney, both Australia, both called Mike, and both got white hair.
That's right.
And we hardly ever see each other.
Been around for a few decades. I think I did see you once over in America. We were over there, and no, it's quite incredible, isn't it? And yeah, it really is an unusual time, but I think a time that if we make some good calls at this time, it could reshape the church for the next several decades. Would be my hope. I first got prompted just very recently by an article you put out. We might start there on just some really practical ways to love your neighbour right now, and I think. Maybe you've done this too. Do you live in the eastern suburbs? Are you in?
No, we're on Northern Beaches.
Northern Beaches. We're on the southern beaches, and we live in a little kind of community called the Warrenora Valley. We're rarely here normally. We've been doing the lap of the river. People stop. Hi, how are you? It's like they've been taking gentle, nice pills or something. It's quite incredible. A good opportunity right now to really get serious and practical about loving your neighbour. Where'd the article come from, and would you like to share a bit about it?
I mean, the article came from, I guess via social media, I'm getting lots of stories and suggestions and things people are doing. And partly I collated some of that stuff and then added some of my own and the like. But the motivation chiefly was, and it goes to what you were saying before about COVID being the answer, what's the question and what have you, was my concern about my fear, I'll be honest, that the church could actually have a kind of knee-jerk reaction to this current challenge. Put everything up online, and obviously what else can we do? We can't meet any other way. So learn the technology. That was the kind of first step. Pastors desperately trying to figure out what platforms to use, and what will our Sunday meeting look like once we get going. Important challenges, and everyone was at 6s and 7s and improvising really quickly. So I totally get that. I totally understand that was a little phase that we needed to go through. But all the talk that I was hearing was all about what platform to use, like how do we make this seem more intimate. I saw people saying things like, "Oh, great! Now we can visit 4 or 5 different churches on a Sunday. We can pop into these different people, listen to our favorite."
And people are,
people are. I know, and it just kind of triggered something in me, Michael, where I thought, this sounds a little bit like the kind of the really bad old days of what used to be called the church growth movement. There's nothing wrong with churches growth. It's not a bad name. And the founders of the church growth movement, no question they had the right motives, and they were great godly people, mainly men. But at its worst, in the hands of kind of, lesser mortals, the church growth kind of movement became really very Sunday-centric, very much around recruiting and marketing, seeker-sensitive stuff and those kinds of things. And so I feel like I've spent like the last few decades, agitating and encouraging churches to say, sure, great, meet on Sunday. I've planted churches, I've pastored churches, I belong to churches. We've always had a meeting on a Sunday, so I'm not opposed to it. But if we go back to the days, if COVID kind of springs us back to all of our energies are going into what does our meeting look like, except now it's virtual or it's online. Are we going back to those kind of bad old days, I would call them, of the very attractional Sunday-centric approach to doing church. And I feel like, I don't know how you feel, but over the last 20 years or so, I feel like the church has kind of corrected that imbalance. It kind of was heading more and more to very Sunday-centric, very...
I'd say correcting, to be honest.
Exactly, correcting, sure.
I think it's an ongoing...
Over those 20 years, there's been this kind of movement back, like, well, wait, the church ought to be about justice and reconciliation and evangelism and neighborhood. And so there's been those conversations have been pulling the church back. And I was just a bit anxious, like, geez, I hope this isn't a knee-jerk back to all our energies go into making the Sunday meeting happen. So, all right.
I'm really glad. I mean, I would totally agree. When I first saw the article, I went, oh, we'll have a bit of a stoush over this one, but I can't floor that theology or heart. I actually totally agree. Here's my encouragement. We've been talking to literally hundreds, probably 200 or 300 pastors in the last 3 weeks, because of often the need of, what's going on. I think they're realizing, I won't say to a man, but many are realizing all we've got is the people God's given us,
right.
And the flimsiness, even, the schmickness. Some of the guys struggling the most, it would appear to me, are the larger churches that are used to doing church on television, but took them a couple of weeks to realize, this is not T.D. Jakes or Steve Furtick or whomever, great preachers on the television thing. You get the pan of the crowd. It contextualizes, that's why he's spitting and that's, whereas when all I've got is just you and me, that's a very different forum. And so for many guys feeling out of their depth there, I think they are seriously looking at mobilizing, the body of Christ like I haven't seen before. And the fact that they're able to turn their church on a dime and reconfigure, albeit to get Sunday out there, gives me great heart that God's up to something and that he's speaking to them right now.
Yeah, well, I agree. I hope so. I mean, and in fact, it's going to be those big churches are the last ones that are going to be able to meet again, aren't they? I mean, once social isolation and lockdown starts to get rolled back, they will be the last lot that will be able to.
I think so. I saw a little meme of or a little comment at some stage at about 250, right? When the first lot was you can only meet 250. All of these incredible lead pastors, senior pastors who were believing for that building at 500 are going, woohoo! No rent for the next couple of months, and we can meet. And then of course the iterations changed to 10 and then 2, and everyone was in the same boat.
The other thing too, Mike, is that often, there was the Sunday at the centre and we put lots of time and energy, a lot of staffing. Our building is focused around that thing. And then the next iteration out from that, when it came to engagement in neighbourhood and in the world, was that we had ministries, we had departments, and we had organised agencies and programs. Great. Yep. And then beyond that was ordinary people doing kind of a mission of God in their everyday way, in their neighbourhood, at their workplace and all that. And what you're saying is now, oh, hold on, that middle section's gone. We can't run any of those things. We can't run them virtually, really. I mean, you can run a Sunday meeting virtually. So now what we've got is the Sunday meeting, and okay, if you've learned kind of the technology and you've got it under your belt, you know how to run it now, well, you're used to doing it, so do it. But you've only now got that other level, which is your average church member. How do we mobilize them, especially if they're not even going to work, if they're working from home or they're out of work? How do we mobilize them to actually be the presence of Jesus on their street, in their neighborhood, in their, among their school friends, parents, and their other social networks and the like? So, it's like you said, if COVID is the answer, what is the question? Was the question maybe, wow, the church really needed to learn what everyday, ordinary, individual, local mission looked like. And that's not to decry kind of programs and agencies and those things. They'll come back again, and they're great. But wow, what a great opportunity for us to recover what it looks like to mobilize your average person into actually being the presence of God in the neighborhood.
You honestly could have been any one of a number of consults I've done over the last couple of weeks. Not like this message is just, banging it together. I remember a guy once said to me, he was really concerned with the amateurization of missions and the idea that we're releasing people and not out of agencies. And his heart was right in it. He was saying, gee, there's a lot of complex stuff out there, and I get all that. But I'm like, no. I'm believing for the big time amateurization of missions and mission, that we give people a go. I was just reading it in early chapters of Mark a couple of days ago. And just the demoniac, they crossed over. The demoniac was released. He was a crazy guy, sitting peaceful in his right mind, and understandably he wanted to follow Jesus. And Jesus said, no, go and be an evangelist. Now, I don't know necessarily that's a doctrine per se, but it's like, wow, no alpha, no growth track, no freedom course. He did the freedom course through Jesus. But go for it, son. Go and tell people what I've done. And literally, you could put a cigarette paper between the two. There was only moments difference between the time the guy was howling at the moon and sitting with Jesus, wanting to be one of his followers. And I just think, man, if Jesus can do that, let's bring on amateurization of mission.
Yeah, and I get what that guy was saying. I mean, if you're going to be engaging with issues to do with domestic violence or sexual assault, or if you're wanting to engage with issues of entrenched poverty in Indonesia, or you don't want to just like go for it, do whatever you like, give it a crack. I mean, that has to be dealt with in professional, well-planned kinds of ways. That's that kind of middle iteration. There's that Sunday meeting. There's the next section where it should be organised, and it should be there should be really clear processes in place to protect both staff and the people you're working with.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree.
But it's this outer limit. It's that other next section. That's the demoniac. That's the like, go for it, go do it. That's the stuff that is being elevated now. It's like, okay, what does it look like for you to actually love your neighbours? And mate, you'll know as well as I do, in our country and lots of other countries around the world, Western countries mainly, people don't even know their neighbours' names. I mean, they just say hi as they're driving in or out of their garages. I mean, maybe they know their name, that's Bill and that's Margaret, but they don't know them. There's no real connection. For years the church has been saying, go out, love your neighbours, invite your neighbours to church. They don't even know their neighbours. Like, you can't invite a stranger to church. I mean, just because we happen to live in the same street, or our address is just, a couple of numbers different, it doesn't mean there's any connection. But now, as you were saying about when you were going for a walk and everyone's taken their nice pills, I mean, all these families are out riding bikes around the streets. All people are walking at sunset. I mean, it's like, people, because they've been inside all day, they're going crazy. It's like, get me out of here. And as you also say, there's a sense, I guess, in which people feel a kind of a camaraderie. It's like, we're all in this together. So there's
you pick that up. Yeah.
But of course, also there are elderly folks in the street, just down the road from you or me, who need someone to go pick up their medication from the pharmacy, or there are people who just going to need some practical favors of some kind or another during this time. There are grandparents who can't see their grandkids. There's grief. There's so much need. Not entrenched poverty, not the kind of chaos that we see in the developing world. There's this kind of low level, everyday kind of need that's all out now, and it's a really important time for Christian people to kind of step up and say, hey, we can respond to this.
I'm reluctant to say what I'm about to say because it might be misinterpreted, but knowing who I'm with here, and we should have a go, that it feels a bit like a setup. Like, I understand there's so much pain. People are, I had a guy text me, I invited him to our online service on the weekend, and if I had a moment, I'd find and read the text anonymously. He said, I'm devastated. He said, I need Jesus more than ever. He was a follower of Christ, and he's kind of been estranged from Christ. His girlfriend, who's from overseas, is in hospital in ICU. She's 32 years of age, been in and out of heart failure. And he said, I wept through the first time he's been to church, online, but church for probably 18 months, I think, 2 years. And he said, I wept through the whole thing. And it did me good, to be honest, to read his text, because honestly, I'm busy helping helping the carers, right? You know, you went out, and it reminded me afresh of how much pain there really is. That's one example.
Yeah.
Having said that, so I understand that, and I don't want to be in any way lacking empathy or compassion. It feels a bit for the church like it's a setup. People are really fearful right now, and therefore maybe some of the things that would stand in the way of them even being open to a conversation about Christ have sort of come down. And then on the other hand, you've got the church members, so-called, wanting to step up and help in any way they possibly can. And so if ever there was an opportunity for the church to release the body of Christ and to be the church, I don't know what else has got to happen if it's
totally. Yeah, and look, there's lots of good-hearted non-Christian people that are stepping up. So if that's the case, why on earth wouldn't the Christians? And there are hundreds of thousands of them, you know, across our cities. Like, why wouldn't they be doing that? I mean, why wouldn't they be the ones that are like producing those little cards and letterbox dropping, saying, "Here's my number. Can I help? Give me a call." And it might even be, you don't even know me. I live at number 5 and you lived at number 10, and we wait. But anyway, here's my name, here's my number. How can I help? Can I pick up groceries for you? Can I pick up, you know, medications from the pharmacy? Do you need someone to walk the dog? You know, just someone to kind of listen to? I mean, in that article that I wrote, there's all these kind of ideas. There are people doing
brilliant.
In their driveways. There's, you know, there's people putting chalk messages on footpaths. You know, just get out there and like share some love. And Mike, I'm sure there'll be some neighbours who, if you say to them, "How could I pray for you right now?" will tell you to get lost and I don't.
Yeah.
Right? Sure. And I'm sure that there'll be some neighbours who say, you know, don't letterbox drop me, or I don't want any of your, you know, your gifts. Or sure, that's their prerogative. And
sure.
But I think you're right that there are people who at the moment are way more open than ever. Like one of my good friends, his elderly neighbour was on the Ruby Princess, and which was a passenger liner where a lot of COVID infections in Australia came in on that ship, as you know.
Yeah.
And this elderly gentleman was a passenger, and he has passed away. But my friend Dave was saying that, you know, the street was meeting in their driveways and talking to each other across the road and what have you. And, you know, we need to, he's saying, "I'm going to be praying for Bill, and my home group is praying for Bill." And people were like, "Oh, well, would you pray for me? Oh, you know, my niece is pregnant," or, you know, people are calling out across the street around this. And Dave was saying, "I have never had that level of openness to spiritual things." And he's quite well connected to his neighbours. So, no, I think, man, there's some pretty serious stuff going down here, and we don't know how to deal with it, and we don't know what the outcome's going to be, and we look like we're going to be facing some kind of, if not financial ruin, some really significant financial challenges, economic challenges as a country. So, yeah, I think people are conscious, like, you know, something's out of our hands, like, you know, we'll take any help we can get.
I had a less dramatic than my other friend. I invited another couple who are quite prominent in our area, like in civic sort of areas. And I actually said to them, I said, "Look, if I sent you a link, would you come and just check it out? I guess you were at home, you know." And they came back, sent me the link. And then I said, maybe afterwards we can get together and have a Zoom coffee. And because I would actually like, and I actually said this, they obviously know that I'm a minister. I said, "I'd like to pray a blessing of protection and provision over you." And they jumped at it. So again, not churchgoers certainly, and I just think there's just a wonderful openness for people to receive encouragement, even that they might be asking some questions that they wouldn't otherwise be asking.
And especially if you're a minister, I know that a lot of ministers are going to be watching this. I mean, if people in the street know, "Oh, that guy lives over there, he's a minister of a church," it would just seem the most natural thing for a minister to say, "How could I pray for you?" I mean, I know we haven't talked much and you know, see each other in the street, but I'd love to pray for you, whether it's, as you said, a blessing, but is there a need? Do you have a family member that's needs prayer this time? For sure. And all they can say is like, "No, thanks, mate." If that's the worst that comes of it, so what? But yeah, my view in writing that was, imagine if hundreds of thousands of Christians across the city just started sprinkling their neighborhoods with this kind of level of love. And at this time in our country, Michael, like we've been through a royal commission into sexual assault by minors in the church. We've just had a cardinal on trial for sexually assaulting, an altar boy. We have had so much bad press as a church in Australia. It has been shocking. And so I would say among the average non-churchgoer, even though when they're pushed to think about it, they realise, oh yes, St Vincent de Paul, the Salvation Army, oh yeah, they're churches and church ministries and the like. But for the most part, when you ask, what do you think of the church? All they're thinking about now is the bad news. That's all front and centre. And I think partly what we need also to do in responding to this is not only meet actual practical need, but we kind of got to remind people, actually, Christians aren't the salt of the earth. They're meant to be the people of love and peace, the shalom bringers into our neighbourhoods. And suburban neighbourhoods can be very lonely, quiet, empty places for most part. Cars running up and down the streets, but not many people walking, no one really much in their front yards, maybe Saturday mornings. But other than that, they can be empty places. So now that they're filling up a bit with people who are working from home, I think it's a great opportunity for Christian people to say, right, let's get a checklist. I mean, that article has 35 ideas. From praying for people, encouraging people, acts of service, words of encouragement, all those kinds of things, crazy stuff, funny stuff, like really good, meaningful stuff. Let's make a commitment. We'll do 4 or 5 of these next week. See what happens.
Since 2000, you've been, well, maybe even before that, I don't know, but The Shape of Things to Come, you've been a prolific author. And you know, just some incredible books speaking into the kingdom, agitating, as you said before, having a bit of a stoush with some of the way that you were seeing things go. Which book do you reckon might be most relevant? Because I'll post this article when I put this out for our pastors, our lead pastors group, and maybe take it beyond. But I just, which one would be, you know, keeping Christianity weird or surprise the world or what?
Well, I mean, Surprise the World is a little tiny kind of workbook thing, but I think a nice, relatively short introduction to what I think is a book called Road to Missional. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's 120 pages or something. So it's not Shaping of Things to Come, which was a big, more academic kind of book. But Road to Missional is a kind of intro to here's what the mission of God's people is all about. This is the road we're called to walk upon. Some of you have just started, some of you are down the track, but let's keep walking this road to become more and more missional. And so back to where we started, that was my fear about, I hope we're not like heading back in the other direction on the road, back to becoming too Sunday centric, when really I think we're making some good strides forward in what it means to unleash missional communities in our world.
It's interesting to see and I mean, it's all been pretty quick, right? It's only 4 weeks or whatever it's been now. But see some of the subtle iterations in the thinking of pastors. It was like initially, oh no, this is horrible. Okay, quick, let's get online. To now, okay, like lots of guys going, I really like aspects of this. I don't want to continually go back. I've heard that. And I mean, I don't want to go back to, so hopefully in that, it's not just a pragmatic, functional, tactical thing, but there's a philosophical, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to consumer kind of focus, as I said before, from on-site to online and just the same kind of consumption, you know, but we really do like legitimately want to release people into the Great Commission. And I mean, I've been doing some numbers with people because, you know, views are the new crack, Mike. They're the new crack for pastors.
I know.
And so I just try to say, you know, take a cold shower doesn't mean anything really. It's all about connection and engagement. But when you do start to do the numbers, speaking, you know, a language of, hey, you want to impact people and stuff, if you release the people that God has given you, in a way that encourages them and really instructs them how to take their story online. You can't touch and, you know, get too close. Like, you know, everyone's got a Facebook family of, I don't know, 500, 400. I don't know what the average is. I haven't even looked, but you start to think about, oh my gosh, that message that I toiled over on Sunday could go out to 100,000 people, not just 400, or not, you know, and so, and something about online too, the same thing that gives a troll the ability to snipe and pour vitriol over someone they don't agree with, bless that, but it's the same thing. It might give believers a little bit of a extra bit of Dutch courage to share their story online, where they may be more reluctant to do it face to face. I don't know. It remains to be seen, but I'm not sure.
Oh, and I'd go further and I'd say not only sharing what you've just said, but also we should be sharing all these stories. You know, I was talking to my pastor, Mike Murphy, the other day, and he was telling me about, you know, these kinds of stories also give people courage. It gives people courage thinking, oh, okay, well, that's not so hard. That's not so difficult. And I would say to senior pastors in particular, in this respect, that really one of the key things to mobilizing people into mission is when the leadership themselves are living it, not just encouraging them. So, I mean, you cannot lead where you will not go, and you cannot teach what you do not know. So yourselves, get out there. It's just ordinary, everyday, unspectacular stuff. Loving, serving, listening, caring. Talk about it. Let people know that you're doing it, and then say, you guys could do it too. Get out there. Let's see what God kind of really coalesces. I really feel like a lot of what we're doing here is building nets. Do you know when Jesus said to his followers, I'll make you fishers of people? They were fishermen, right? And so you know that a fisherman in Galilee only spends a very small portion of his day actually out in the water fishing. Most of what he spends his time doing is cleaning fish and selling it and mending nets. Exactly. If those nets are strong, it'll sweep up everything that gets caught in its way. And so I can't help but wonder whether when Jesus said, I'll make you fishers of people, they not only did they think, oh, we'll be drawing people in, but I think they might have also been thinking we should be building the of relationships, of connection, of love, of part. So people swim into these nets and get caught up into this thing called the kingdom of God.
I love that, Mike. I love that. Hey, listen, thank you so much. Not only, you know, obviously you're a scholar, you're a thinker, you're a writer, you're an Aussie, and very much so, and a practical lover of people. But can I just say also, over decades of blemish-free leadership, of the fact that you've been such an inspiration to so many leaders, whether people agree with everything you've said or not. And, you know, I just think that having someone serve God faithfully, strongly, you know, over decades and decades like you have, just a huge shout out, man.
Thanks, man.
You really have made and are making an incredible contribution.
That means a lot. I really appreciate you saying that.
Well, God bless you, and enjoy your lock-in. Give us another book, while you're in there.
Yeah, well, apparently, who was it? Like Mozart wrote some symphony? Or
yeah, I heard that.
Somebody wrote some great book when they were in lockdown. I don't know.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, buddy.
Okay, please do, brother.
I'll put that link underneath when I post this of the article and any other stuff that you know, Mike's message of Missional Church. If ever it was in time, it's in time right now. And so again, appreciate you, buddy, and you keep safe and keep healthy.
You too, Michael. Thanks. Bless you.
God bless.